Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is Sunday, February 8, 2026. And, usually we're digging through history books or analyzing these massive trends that have been building up for decades.
Right, the slow-moving glaciers of history.
Exactly. But today, we're doing something a little different. We are looking at something that, well, it literally just happened. Popped up on our screens this morning.
Very morning, yeah.
And it sent this weird, kind of specific ripple through the tech and economic worlds.
It really did. It's pretty rare that a single sentence, I mean, what is it, less than 280 characters, can just force you to stop what you're doing and rethink, well, everything, the entire foundation of how the global economy works.
Right. But here we are.
Here we are.
So to set the scene for everyone listening, it's Sunday morning, the markets are closed, the world is, relatively quiet, and then Elon Musk opens X, what we all still call Twitter, and just posts a tweet.
Just one sentence.
Yeah, no thread, no big manifesto attached, no press release, just a raw thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to be honest with you, when I first read it, my eyes kind of glazed over.
I get that.
It just sounded like total technobabble,
Yeah.
The kind of thing a billionaire tweets when he's bored on a Sunday.
It does have that flavor, doesn't it? At first glance, it looks like just a jumble of engineering buzzwords that he threw into a blender.
100%. But then, we started seeing the analysis pouring in from sources like Netizen and these really deep philosophical takes from writers like Paramendra Kumar Bhagat, and I realized, okay, maybe I'm dismissing this too quickly. Maybe this isn't just noise.
It is definitely not noise. I would argue, and I think the source material backs this up, that this is a civilizational signal. It's what one writer called a philosophical grenade.
A philosophical grenade.
Thrown right into the worlds of economics and political theory.
Wow. Okay, that's a big claim. So let's read the tweet so everyone knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yep.
Verbatim, posted today by Elon Musk.
Go for it.
Once the solar energy generation, to robot manufacturing, to chip fabrication, to AI loop is closed, conventional currency will just get in the way.
Sure, technical, and just utterly dismissive of the one thing that makes the entire world go round.
Money.
Money.
Conventional currency will just get in the way. I keep coming back to that phrase. That's the part that really stuck with me. He's not saying money is evil or that crypto is better or anything about the gold standard.
No, none of that.
He's saying money is annoying, that it's friction, inefficient.
Precisely. And that right there is what we are here to unpack today. This deep dive is going to explore this whole concept of the closed loop. We're going to look at these 4 pillars he mentions, solar, robots, chips, and AI, and really see how if you connect them, you actually could end up with a system where money isn't just obsolete, it's a hindrance. It actively gets in the way.
Okay, but hold on. Before we get into the full sci-fi stuff, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Please.
We have been using money for thousands of years. It's how we keep score. It's how we survive. It's how I pay my rent and buy my coffee in the morning. Is he actually suggesting we abolish cash? Or is this just some high-level CEO speak for, I want to cut costs and stop paying my suppliers?
And that is the ultimate question, isn't it? Is this a blueprint for utopia or just a really aggressive corporate strategy? But to even begin to answer that, we have to look at what money actually is.
Okay.
Think about a horse saddle. For centuries, the saddle was an essential piece of technology, absolutely vital. You couldn't move fast across land without one. It was critical infrastructure.
Sure, made sense.
Then the internal combustion engine comes along. The car is invented. The saddle doesn't just vanish overnight, but it becomes ornamental. It becomes a hobbyist item, a relic. Musk is basically suggesting that money is the horse saddle and this closed loop is the car.
Okay, I like that analogy. It's a good one.
Yeah.
But a car is a physical object. Money is, it's everything. It's an idea that we all agree on. If these machines are producing everything and they're allocating resources and optimizing themselves, I get that efficiency goes up. I get that. But if the machines are doing all that, what is the money for? And frankly, if the machines are doing all that, what are we for?
And we will definitely get to the existential dread or,
Sure.
the hope, depending on how you see it later on. But first, we really need to strip this down. We have to deconstruct the idea of money itself.
Right.
Because you and I and everyone listening, we wake up, we go to work to earn money, to buy things. It feels like a law of physics, like gravity pulls you down and you need money to eat.
It feels fundamental.
It does. But our sources argue pretty convincingly that money isn't a natural law. It's a social technology.
A social technology. So you mean we invented it to solve a problem?
Exactly. It is a tool, a piece of software almost, that we invented to solve one very specific, very human problem. How do you coordinate billions of strangers who are all competing for scarce resources?
Strangers competing for scarce resources. Okay, break that down for me, because I don't really feel like I'm coordinating when I buy a bagel.
Yeah.
I want a bagel.
Right, but think about what had to happen for you to get that bagel. A farmer in Kansas grew wheat. A trucker, who you'll never meet, drove it across the country. A factory processed it into flour. A baker woke up at 3 a.m. to bake it.
A whole chain of people.
A huge chain. You don't know the farmer. You don't personally trust the trucker. You don't care about the factory owner's well-being specifically, and frankly, they don't care about yours. But you need the bagel, and they all need to pay their rent.
And money is the bridge.
Money is the bridge. It's a universal signaling system. It compresses all of that complex information, the labor, the risk, the time, the fuel, the materials, into a single, simple number. A price.
So a price tag is just a compressed file of all that information.
That is a perfect way to look at it. Think of money as a compression algorithm, like a ZIP file on your computer. It takes all this messy, chaotic human effort, the sweat, the bad weather, the rising cost of diesel, and zips it all down into $1.50.
And that lets us trade without having to have like a giant town hall meeting about every single transaction.
Exactly. It's the lubricant for a world that is defined by limits. We have limited energy, limited muscle power, limited time. Money is the tool we use to manage that friction.
Okay, I'm with you. Money handles the friction caused by scarcity. If there's only one apple and two of us want it, the money decides who gets it based on who's willing to pay more.
Correct. This is classic Kojin economics, right? It's all about transaction costs. Money exists because it costs something: time, effort, trust to make a trade. But here is the kicker, and this is the absolute core of the Musk proposition.
Yeah.
Compression algorithms, like a ZIP file, are only useful if there is underlying complexity to compress. If I send you a ZIP file to an empty folder,
It's completely useless. I'd ask you why you even bothered sending me a file with nothing in it.
Exactly. So if scarcity collapses, if the folder of human struggle and limitation becomes empty because abundance is, for all practical purposes, infinite, then the algorithm, the money, loses its entire purpose.
I'm still struggling with the infinite part, though. I mean, even if robots make all the apples, you still need land to grow them on. You still need water. Those things aren't infinite. So how does the price tag actually go to zero?
And that's a key distinction. It doesn't mean the laws of physics disappear, but it means the marginal cost of production trends so close to zero that the cost of metering the transaction, the cost of printing the receipt, swiping the card, processing the bank fee, that cost becomes higher than the actual value of the good itself.
Ah, okay. So it's like water from a public fountain. Technically, that water costs the city money to pump and purify. But we don't put a credit card reader on the fountain because it would cost more to install and run the reader than the, pennies worth of water you're drinking is actually worth. It's just not practical.
Precisely. Now imagine that same logic applied to everything. Energy, manufactured goods, transportation, computing power. That is the world Musk is proposing. We are, he argues, on the verge of abolishing the foundational scarcities that make money necessary in the first place: energy, labor, and intelligence.
And if those scarcities are gone, or at least dramatically reduced, money stops being a bridge and it starts being a barrier.
It becomes red tape. It becomes a toll booth on a highway that no one needs to exit from. Imagine for a second if the air we breathe had a price tag and you had to swipe a card every time you inhaled. It wouldn't facilitate breathing. It would just slow you down and get in the way.
That is a genuinely terrifying image, but yeah, it gets a point across.
Yeah.
So Musk is saying this closed loop creates that kind of crazy abundance. But let's be real for a second. Musk says a lot of things. He promised us 1 million robo-taxes by 2020. It's now 2026. Why should we believe this is real and not just another hype cycle to pump the stock?
And that is a very, very fair skepticism. The timeline is always, Elon time. It's famously elastic. But I think we have to separate the deadline from the trajectory. Whether this happens in 2030 or 2050, the underlying engineering logic is what's fascinating. And he gave us the roadmap right there in the tweet. 4 pillars. The first one is solar energy generation.
Right. Pillar 1. And he's not just talking about putting a few panels on a roof, is he? He's talking about fundamentally changing the nature of energy itself.
He is. Every industrial system, every single civilization in history begins with its energy source. You can't do anything without it. And historically, energy has been a resource. You have to find it, you have to dig it out of the ground, you have to burn it.
And crucially, it runs out. Once I burn a gallon of gas in my car, it's gone. I have to go buy another one. It's a consumable.
Exactly. It's inherently scarce, and therefore it's inflationary. As demand goes up, the price goes up. But Musk's vision, which he's been building with Tesla Energy for years, shifts energy from being a scarce input, a fuel you burn, to being an ambient condition.
An ambient condition. What, like gravity? Or
Yeah.
the air?
Precisely like gravity. The sun is, for all intents and purposes, a massive fusion reactor in the sky that runs 247. It is constantly bathing the Earth in orders of magnitude more energy than our entire civilization could ever use. The physics of it are just staggering.
I think I've heard that stat before, that in like a single hour, the sun hits the Earth with enough energy to power everything for a whole year.
It's true. So the problem has never been a lack of supply. It's always been about capture and storage.
Which brings us directly to Tesla's massive pivot over the last decade.
Yeah.
It's not just a car company. It's solar roofs, power walls, the giant megapacks for grid storage.
Yes, they're building the capture and storage layer for the sun. But here's the critical economic shift. Solar technology is fundamentally deflationary.
Meaning it gets cheaper and cheaper the better the technology gets and the more of it we make.
Exactly. It behaves like a computer chip, not like a barrel of oil. The more you build, the cheaper it gets per unit. There's a concept called Swanson's law. It's like Moore's law for solar. It basically says that every time you double the cumulative production of solar panels, the cost drops by about 20%.
And we've been seeing that play out for years. Solar is getting ridiculously cheap.
We are reaching a crossover point called the levelized cost of energy, or LCOE, where building a new solar plant plus battery storage is actually cheaper than just continuing to operate an existing coal or natural gas plant.
Wait, say that again. Cheaper than just operating it, even if the coal plant is already built and totally paid for.
Yes, because for the coal plant, you still have to buy the coal. You have to pay for the fuel day in and day out. For the solar plant, once it's built, the fuel is free. It just shows up every morning.
But there's a catch there, isn't there? The Jevons paradox. It says that every time we make energy more efficient or cheaper, we don't actually use less of it. We end up using way, way more. So if energy becomes effectively free, won't we just consume absolutely insane amounts of it and create all new kinds of scarcities?
That is the history of industrialization, yes. We will absolutely use more. But remember, the source, the sun. The supply is, relative to our planetary needs, effectively infinite. If we need more energy, we don't need to invade a country to get their oil reserves.
We just manufacture more panels.
We just manufacture more panels. And that brings us right back to the loop. If energy is infinite, but the panels cost money to make, you see the problem.
The bottleneck.
The bottleneck. You cannot have the rest of the loop without cheap, abundant energy. But once you have enough panels and enough batteries, the energy stops being a commodity you buy and sell. It becomes infrastructure that is just always on. And if energy is always on and basically free, well, that completely changes the economics of pill to tuck.
Color to the belly. Robot manufacturing.
Robot manufacturing.
So now we're talking about labor. And specifically, we have to talk about Musk's Optimus project.
We do. And we really have to look past the current demos. I know people see the videos of the robot slowly folding laundry, and they think it looks clunky and useless.
It does look clunky. I mean, a human can fold a shirt in, 3 seconds? The robot takes 30. It really does feel like a gimmick, a toy for rich people.
That's what I call the version 1 trap. You're judging the baby for not being able to run a marathon yet. Optimus isn't about folding laundry. It represents the general purpose labor unit.
General purpose labor unit.
Think about it. This is labor, divorced from biology.
Labor divorced from biology. That sounds incredibly cold.
It is cold. It's a purely economic concept. Look at any factory today. What's the biggest headache? It's not the machines, it's the people. People need breaks. People get sick. They need the lights on, the air conditioning running. They get injured on the job.
People need to pick their kids up from school. They have lives.
Exactly. Biology is high maintenance. Musk is proposing a fundamental shift to software-defined labor. A robot that can do anything a human can do physically: walk, carry things, assemble parts, mine, sort, but with the durability and uptime of a tractor.
But hold on, we've had robots in car factories for 40 years. Those big orange robotic arms that weld the doors on. How is this actually different from that?
That's a great question. Those are what we call hard automation. That big orange arm is incredibly good at doing one thing in one spot forever. If you want it to do something else, you have to reprogram it, retool it, maybe even move the giant bolts in the concrete floor that hold it down. It's completely rigid.
Okay.
Optimus is different because it's general purpose. It has degrees of freedom. It has hands with fingers. It has legs. It can navigate a messy, unpredictable human environment.
So it can walk into a weirdly shaped room, step over a cable that someone left on the floor, and pick up a specific tool from a messy workbench.
Yes. And here is the absolutely critical step in closing the loop. It's not just about one robot. It's about robots building robots.
That is the classic sci-fi nightmare scenario for some people, the whole gray goo theory. But from a purely economic standpoint, it's the holy grail.
It is the moment the loop closes on the concept of labor. So just picture a factory. It's powered entirely by solar panels, which are already built and paid for. Inside that factory, robots are building more robots.
Yeah.
Now think about the expense sheet for that factory. Those robots do not need wages. They do not need health insurance. They don't need a pension plan or a 401k. They don't need sleep. They don't take weekends off. They don't unionize.
So the cost of labor, which is almost always the single biggest expense in any business, it just drops to the cost of the raw materials and the maintenance.
And if other robots are doing the mining for the raw materials and doing the maintenance on their fellow robots,
Then the cost drops even further, almost to zero.
exactly. Labor as a concept exits the market. In traditional economics, wages are a pricing signal. They tell you where labor is needed. Hey, high wages over here, come work for us. But if the worker is a machine built by another machine, powered by the sun, there is no wage. There is no signal. Employment stops being the primary way that income is distributed because there is literally no employment anywhere in that supply chain.
That is just a staggering thought. We usually think of automation as machines are taking our jobs. But this is machines are taking the concept of a job.
To the level deeper.
But hold on, a robot is just a pile of metal and plastic without a brain. It can't do anything without computer chips.
Which brings us directly to pillar the third, chip fabrication.
Chip fabrication. This, to me, is where the tweet gets really, really ambitious. Because right now, making advanced computer chips is, well, it's basically the hardest thing humans know how to do, isn't it?
Without a doubt. Modern semiconductor fabrication is the absolute pinnacle of human engineering. It is the choke point of modern civilization. To make a modern AI chip, you need things like extreme ultraviolet lithography, EUV. You need mirrors that are so perfectly smooth that if you scaled one up to be the size of Germany, the biggest bump on it would be less than a millimeter high.
That's insane.
You need incredibly powerful lasers blasting tiny droplets of molten tin 50,000 times a second to create the light source. It's borderline magic.
And right now, almost all of that advanced manufacturing happens in one place.
Taiwan,
with some in South Korea. And the supply chain for it wraps around the entire globe. You get specialty neon gas from Ukraine, palladium from Russia, photoresist chemicals from Japan. The whole thing is incredibly fragile.
We all saw that during the pandemic. A car factory in Detroit had to shut down because a single $1 chip from Asia didn't show up on the boat. Exactly. The loop cannot be considered closed if you are completely dependent on a factory halfway across the world that might get blockaded in a war or hit by an earthquake. Musk knows this. If he wants a truly self-sustaining system, he cannot rely on TSMC or Samsung forever.
So this is why he's so obsessed with doing everything in-house. But can he actually do it? I mean, a giant like Intel has been trying to catch up to TSMC for years and has been struggling. Is it really realistic to think that Tesla or XAI can just, start making chips?
It is wildly ambitious. You could even say it's bordering on arrogant. But you have to look at the pattern of what he's already doing.
Sure.
Tesla has the Dojo supercomputer. They designed their own D1 chip for it. SpaceX builds custom radiation-hardened hardware for its rockets and satellites. The strategic goal is to internalize intelligence at the silicon level.
He wants to control the means of brain production.
Correct. The ultimate goal to close this part of the loop is to have those robots who are powered by the sun building the chip factories, the fabs, and then actually running the fabs themselves.
Wait, robots running a chip fab? Those places are insanely delicate. You need these hyper-sterile clean rooms, microscopic precision.
And who do you think is the dirtiest, most unpredictable part of a clean room?
The humans.
the humans.
Yeah.
We shed skin cells, we breathe, we sweat, we vibrate when we walk. Robots can be designed to be far cleaner and more precise than any human could ever be.
So you remove the human contamination from the manufacturing process.
Yes. And more importantly, you remove the geopolitical risk from the supply chain. When your chip fabrication is fully automated and powered by your own solar grid, the system no longer needs globalism to function. It becomes sovereign. It can literally think for itself.
So we've got the energy source, the solar, we've got the body, the robots, and we have the brain, the chips. But who's telling the brain what to do? That has to be pillar the four.
That's pillar fourth, AI integration, the AI loop that he mentions at the very end of the sequence.
Right, the conductor of the orchestra.
But it's actually more than a conductor. A conductor just directs the music that's already written. The AI in this loop is the recursive core. It's the meta-optimizer.
Or recursive, okay, that means it loops back on itself,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
It improves itself.
Yes. And this is a key concept that is so often missed when people talk about AI progress. This isn't linear progress. It's not we make a better robot, then we wait 10 years for the next model to come out. It is recursive acceleration.
Walk me through that.
Okay. The AI designs a more efficient solar panel.
Right.
Those better solar panels provide more cheaper energy. That energy powers better, more capable robots. Those robots build more advanced chip fabs. Those fabs build better, faster chips. Those chips run a more powerful AI. And that more powerful AI
Designs an even better solar panel.
and the wheel starts to spin faster and faster and faster.
It's an exponential curve.
Exactly. Think of it like a blacksmith in the Stone Age. First, he hits a piece of iron with a rock. With that, he manages to make a crude iron hammer. Now he can hit the iron harder and make a better steel hammer. With the steel hammer, he can build a power hammer. The power hammer helps him build a robotic forge. The AI is the blacksmith that never sleeps, never forgets, and learns from every single strike instantly across the entire network.
That's a wild concept. It's like the system itself comes alive,
Yeah.
stops behaving like an economy and starts behaving more like a biological organism.
That is the perfect analogy from the source material. It has a metabolism, it grows, it repairs itself, it improves itself.
So let's go back to the original tweet. Musk says once this whole loop is closed, conventional currency will just get in the way.
Yeah.
I want to really, really dig into the mechanics of that. Walk me through a transaction inside this loop. How does it work?
Okay, let's look at what this means for the end of the market mechanism. In this self-contained system we've just described, solar powering robots, building chips, running AI, who is the buyer.
Oh, well, nobody. That's all one big unified system.
Exactly. And who is the seller?
Nobody. The robot isn't selling the chip it made to the AI.
Right. There are no invoices being passed between the solar panel and the robot. The solar panel doesn't charge the robot for the electricity it used. The robot doesn't submit a timesheet to the chip fab for its labor. There are no wages being paid to the AI for its designs.
So it's just one big internal flow of resources.
It is a flow of energy and matter directed by intelligence. Introducing money into that system, forcing the solar panel to sell energy to the robot, would be absurd. It would be inefficient. It would be like asking your liver to send an invoice to your heart for filtering your blood.
Invoice attached. Net 30 days. Please remit payment in oxygen.
Right. It sounds ridiculous because your body is a unified, integrated system. Your body doesn't use money internally. It uses signals, nerves, hormones, blood flow. It allocates resources based on real-time need and biological efficiency, not on which organ has more purchasing power. Musk is saying our entire industrial base should work like a body.
That makes his friction comment makes so much more sense now. If you tried to put a cash register in the middle of your bloodstream, you'd die. Or at the very least, you'd be incredibly slow and inefficient.
Precisely. Money is a tool for high-friction environments between untrusted parties. The closed loop is a zero-friction environment of fully trusted, integrated components. In that context, money isn't just unnecessary, it's noise. It actually corrupts the signal of what's really needed.
Okay, that sounds great for the machines. They get to live in this perfect, efficient, communist utopia of free energy and resources. But what about us? We live outside the loop. We still need to eat. We still need a place to live. If money dies, does value die with it? Because I kind of like value. I like knowing that things are worth something.
And that's a crucial distinction. Value doesn't die. It mutates. It changes its state.
Like ice turning into water. Same molecule, different form.
Exactly. In a world post-currency, the metrics we use for success and value completely change. The source material we looked at outlines 3 big shifts. First, and this is a big one, access replaces ownership.
We're already seeing that a little bit with things like streaming services. Right?
Yeah.
I don't own a million movies on DVD anymore. I just have access to the Netflix library.
But imagine that principle applied to everything. You don't need to own the robot factory. You don't even need to own a car. You just need access to its output. If transportation is abundant and effectively free because of the loop, then owning a car actually becomes a burden. You have to store it, clean it, insure it.
It's a liability.
Right. Access is freedom. Ownership is a chore.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second shift?
The second one is allocation replaces purchasing.
Allocation. Oof. That sounds incredibly bureaucratic. It sounds like waiting in a bread line in the old Soviet Union.
It sounds bureaucratic to us because we associate it with inefficient human committees.
Yeah.
But in this model, it's algorithmic. Today, you purchase things based on how much money you have. In the loop, the system allocates resources based on calculated need and maximum efficiency. It's like a smart grid for all of society's stuff.
But who programs the algorithm? That's the part that freaks me out. If the algorithm decides I don't need a steak this week, do I just not get a steak? Who's in charge?
And that is the danger, which we absolutely have to get to. But let's look at the third shift first. It's that reputation and trust replace wealth.
So social capital becomes actual capital.
In a way, yes. If you can't just flash a wad of cash or a fancy credit card to get what you want, how do you get premium access? How do you get resources allocated to you for a special project? You do it through your reputation, through your contribution to the system. Are you a good steward of the resources you're given? Are you creative? Are you helpful to others?
This is all starting to sound very, very familiar. This is Star Trek.
It is very Star Trek. The source material explicitly references it, along with I.N.M. Banks' Culture series. And even, ironically, the theoretical end stage of communism described by Marx.
Musk and Marx, together at last. That's a buddy cop movie I do not want to see.
It's a very strange horseshoe theory, isn't it? But there is a massive, and I mean massive, Silicon Valley twist here. In Marx's vision, the allocator of resources is the state, a committee of fallible humans. In Musk's vision, the allocator isn't a government or a collective, it is an algorithm.
And that right there is the scary part. Because algorithms are written by people, or at least they start that way, and they can be optimized for the wrong things, with biases we don't even see.
And that is the perfect segue to the dangers, because this is not automatically a utopia. The expert analysis in our source material points out that we are approaching a massive fork in the road.
Right. We have to talk about the dark side of this, because if we have this magical loop that makes everything free, the biggest question in the world becomes, who owns the loop?
Exactly. The expert outlines two potential paths, and they could not be more different. Techno-feudalism versus machine abundance.
Let's start with techno-feudalism. That sounds medieval and not in a fun way.
The term actually comes from the economist Yanis Varoufakis. Imagine path A, which he calls gated abundance.
Gated abundance. Okay, so there's plenty of stuff, but it's all behind a wall.
A digital wall. A few entities, or maybe just one corporate lord, like a future version of Tesla or Amazon or what have you, owns the closed loop. They own the solar farms, the robots, the fabs, the code, everyone else. We become digital serfs.
We don't own anything. We just rent.
We rent access to everything. And we don't have rights as citizens. We have terms of service as users. And if you violate those terms of service, you get deplatformed. But in this world, deplatforming doesn't mean you just lose your social media account. It means you lose your access to energy, to transportation, to food.
Wow. And the risk here, as the source puts it, is that exit is impossible.
Yes. In old feudal times, a serf could technically run away to the woods. You could try to farm your own small plot of land. But if the loop controls all energy and all production, where do you go? You can't compete with free robot labor. You can't generate your own power cheaper than the global solar grid. You cannot leave the system. It becomes coercive by its own indispensability.
That is genuinely terrifying. It's the ultimate monopoly. So what is Path B? Please tell me Path B is better than that.
Path B is the polar opposite. It's open abundance. Civilization as a commons. This is much closer to the vision of someone like Ray Kurzweil.
Okay. The utopian path.
In this scenario, the loop itself is treated like the air we breathe, or like public roads, or the internet protocols like TCP/IP. It's fundamental infrastructure that belongs to everyone. Universal access to a baseline of energy, compute, and food is a guaranteed right of citizenship.
So the loop still runs, but it serves everyone, not just its owners.
Correct. The fundamental shift here is that work becomes contribution. You work on art, on research, on caring for the sick, on philosophy, not because you will starve if you don't, but because you want to contribute to the human project. Prestige replaces your paycheck.
It sounds absolutely lovely. But how in the world do we ensure we get path B and not path A? Because the source brings up this idea of the illusion of neutral technology.
Right. And this is so important. Technology is never neutral. It is an amplifier. It amplifies the values of the people who design and govern it. If the people building the loop value control and profit and power above all else, we will get techno-feudalism. If they value open access and equity and human flourishing, we might get open abundance. There is no automatic utopia. We have to actively design for it.
And that design involves governance, which is kind of a boring word for how we all decide things. But this seems crucial. If money dies, what happens to taxes?
That's the billion-dollar or $0 question. Think about it. The entire structure of modern governments is built on money.
Income tax, sales tax, corporate tax. It's all just taking a percentage of money as it moves around the economy.
Exactly. Taxes come from income. Income comes from jobs. If the value of labor collapses to zero because robots are doing everything, the entire tax base evaporates.
So the government goes broke overnight. No money for roads, no money for schools, no money for the military. The state just collapses.
The model of the government as a tax collector collapses. And this is why the source suggests that universal basic income, or UBI, which everybody talks about as the solution to AI, might actually be a trap.
A trap. How? UBI seems like the most obvious answer to widespread job loss.
Because UBI still operates within the old paradigm. It still assumes that money matters. It assumes the problem is that people don't have enough cash to buy things. But if the loop is closed and money is just friction, why are we handing out cash? If the bread is effectively free to make, why would you give someone $5 to go buy the bread? Just give them the bread.
So instead of UBI, the source suggests something like resource citizenship or universal basic access.
Exactly. Instead of getting a monthly check, you get a guarantee, a kind of digital ration card, but for abundance.
Wow.
You are guaranteed this much electricity, this much data, this much food, this much transportation for free as a right of being human. You are a citizen of the resource pool. Your belonging is defined by your participation and your stewardship, not your net worth.
But who enforces that guarantee? If the government is broke, who stops the robot lord from just turning off my access because he doesn't like something I said?
And that's where the governance model has to be completely reinvented. The source mentions a concept called algorithmic constitutionalism.
That sounds extremely fancy.
It's the idea of a digital Magna Carta. If an AI is going to be allocating society's resources, you need to code the Constitution into the AI's core programming. You need explicit, unchangeable, hard-coded constraints so the AI can't just decide to starve a certain population for the sake of efficiency.
So the code becomes the law. Literally.
Literally. And the source also mentions ideas like DAO-style commons, decentralized autonomous organizations.
Right, where the community of users owns and governs the protocol, not a central company.
And you could build in mechanisms where, for instance, voting power decays without active participation. That would prevent a plutocracy ruled by the rich. You can't just buy up all the influence and sit on it. You have to actively participate and contribute to the community. If you stop, your influence fades.
It's a total from-the-ground-up rewrite of the social contract. But before we get too carried away with this digital utopia, we really need a reality check, because we still live in a physical world. That's Section 9 in the outline, the hard reality.
Yes. We have to remember, the loop is not magic. It's engineering. And engineering has to obey the laws of physics. Thermodynamics is a very harsh mistress.
So physical limits.
Physical limits. Solar panels need rare earth minerals. You have to mine them somewhere. You need silver, you need copper. Building billions of chips creates toxic waste. Land is finite. You can't just cover the entire surface of the Earth in solar panels without destroying the biosphere.
And the heat. All that computing generates an enormous amount of waste heat. If we have a billion AI clusters running at full tilt, that's going to have a real thermal impact on the planet.
Exactly. Which is why the source emphasizes the environmental imperative. A true closed loop cannot just be a production loop. It has to be a recycling loop, too.
It has to be completely circular.
Near 100% recycling has to be a core design principle. If the robots build new robots, but the old, broken robots just pile up in a landfill, the system eventually collapses. It runs out of raw materials. So the AI has to be optimized for ecology, not just for raw production output. Without that ecological optimization, abundance is just Well, it's just collapse postponed.
So the AI doesn't just need to be an economist, it needs to be a ruthless environmentalist.
A ruthless, hyper-efficient environmentalist. It needs to view waste as the ultimate inefficiency to be eliminated from the system.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a minute. We've been analyzing this one single tweet, but the source material makes a really interesting point about Musk's entire career when you look at it as a whole. It's so easy to see him as this chaotic figure, buying Twitter, launching rockets, digging tunnels. On the surface, it looks completely random.
It looks random if you look at the individual products, but if you look at the underlying infrastructure he's building, it all starts to connect.
Let's trace it. Tesla.
Tesla is closing the energy loop. You generate the energy with solar, you store it with Powerwall and Megapack, and you use it with the vehicles. It's a complete vertically integrated system designed to remove the dependency on oil.
Okay. SpaceX.
SpaceX is closing the access to space loop, and the key innovation there is reusability. Launch, land, reuse. Why does that matter for this grand plan? Because you need a massive global satellite network like Starlink to run all the data for the global AI loop.
Yeah.
And long term, you might even need asteroid mining for the raw materials to feed the loop. Reusability makes all of that economically feasible.
Neuralink.
That's closing the brain-machine interface loop. The argument is, if the machines are thinking billions of times faster than us, humans need a high-bandwidth way to talk to them. Or we simply get left behind. We become the pets.
And finally, XAI.
That closes the intelligence feedback loop itself. It's the brain of the entire operation we've been describing.
So when you put it all together, his entire philosophy is remove dependencies, collapse complexity inward.
Exactly. He fundamentally hates supply chains that he doesn't control. He hates relying on other companies, other countries, other systems. And money. What is money but the ultimate external dependency? It's a system he doesn't control, managed by the Federal Reserve, subject to inflation and politics. Of course, he wants to delete it from his equation.
It's not just about efficiency then. It's about absolute control. He wants to build the operating system for reality.
Precisely. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most haunting section of this whole discussion, the human condition.
The ultimate question. If the machines do the work, and the machines do the thinking, and the machines are the ones allocating all the resources, what are we for?
And there it is, the philosophical grenade, fully detonated.
It is an optimistic view, right? The source material gives us some hope.
The optimistic view is liberation. Total liberation from what's called survival economics. For all of human history, 99.9% of us have woken up every single day and spent most of our energy just trying to stay alive and comfortable. We work jobs we might hate to buy the food we need. If the loop handles all of that, we are, for the first time ever, free.
Free to do what, though?
To explore, to create art, to build deep relationships, to understand the universe, to play, all the things we claim we love but never have enough time for because we have to work. We could become a planet of philosophers and artists and scientists.
That sounds incredible. But the pessimistic view?
The pessimistic view is that humanity becomes ornamental. We become like the house cats of the AI. We're kept comfortable, well-fed, warm, but we are ultimately powerless. We become spectators in a world that is optimized for machines, not for us.
We become the horse saddle. Pretty to look at, maybe. Hanging on the wall of a museum, but no longer driving the journey.
Exactly. And the source material mentions some of the author's other works, like Calciism, Blueprint for an Age of Abundance. And the argument there is that this transition requires a profound spiritual or philosophical evolution from us, not just a technical one. If we don't evolve our minds and our sense of purpose, we won't know how to live in the garden the loop creates. We will go crazy from boredom and lack of meaning.
We'll just be bored gods. Or worse, dangerous ones.
Or we'll just invent new, pointless forms of conflict just to feel something again.
So, wow. We have covered a lot of ground. From a single 20-word tweet to the end of money to the ultimate meaning of human life. Let's try to wrap this up.
The recap is actually pretty simple. Money was a bridge. It was an incredible technology that got us from a world of deep scarcity to the brink of abundance. But bridges are meant to be crossed and not lived on forever.
And the warning from our source material is crystal clear. This isn't science fiction for the year 3000. This transition is happening right now. It's happening silently in the engineering choices being made today at Tesla, at NVIDIA, at OpenAI.
We are, whether we realize it or not, choosing between open and gated abundance with every policy decision we make about AI and energy and infrastructure.
So here's the final provocation for you, for everyone listening at home or on your commute or wherever you are. When the loop finally closes and it really seems like it might be sooner than any of us think. Will we be the masters of the machine, or will we be the pets living inside its perfectly manicured garden?
That is the question of our time.
Keep thinking, keep learning, and maybe
Yeah.
start thinking about what you'll do when the weekend never ends. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.